Hi, how you going? For those of you that don't know me, my name's Steve from Pressure System Paddleboards in Marimbula, and we've decided to develop a series of informative SUP clips and surf clips that'll help you out and give you something to watch through the cold winter months. I'm going to design these clips off the most common questions I get asked. I spend a lot of time on the beach with beginners who want to buy boards, and they really don't know much about paddleboarding at all. So I'm going to start from the very basics, and we're going to work our way up through right up to SUP surfing and surfing, and we'll look at tides, wind, how to find the best conditions, how to organise the best paddle conditions, how to locate sandbanks on the beach to get a nice wave, how reefs work, and just basically fill you up with information. So I'm going to just spill everything out on the table over the next few months. You guys can sift through, pick out what you like. Some of it will be a bit beyond you, some will be a bit below you. Just grab what you want, and then when we go into summer, you'll be ready to go, firing on your SUP. So basically, all you've got to do over winter is kick back with your iPad by the fire, have a beer, listen to a bit of information off me. But please, if you don't agree with something I say, or you want me to add something more to what I've already said, please leave comments below. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you guys. And also, if you check out our website, pressuresystempaddleboards.com.au or marimbulastanduppaddlelessons.com.au, you can call me directly and chat about anything. I'm always on the line. So let's get on with it. The first clip's going to be about what makes paddleboards stable, what factors we're looking for. So let's get into it. Hey, thanks for taking the time to watch the rest of the clip with me. Now, as I said, in these little sessions, I'm going to focus on questions that I get asked by customers. And one of the first questions that a lot of people ask when they approach me first up is, hey, I'm interested in buying a stand-up paddleboard, and I'll say to them, have you got any idea of what you're interested in or what size you're after? And they generally go into a panic and say, hey, I've got the worst balance in the world, man, just give me the biggest, most stable board you've possibly got. Now, that's a really tricky thing. That's a really tricky question to answer. It ends up being like a couple of hour process on the beach trying to get that individual sorted out. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown on the three main factors that really affect the stability of the board. There is a fourth factor. I'm going to touch on that at the end. If you can watch it right through at the end, I'll link into that fourth factor. And then I'm going to throw in at the end a little bit of a catch, a little bit of an experiment that'll show you all the factors that I'm talking about coming together, and it might help you understand it a bit better. Okay, so firstly, before I go any further, I just want to say that everything that I say in these clips is my own opinion. Other people might have another opinion, and as I said, please state your opinion in the comments, but just be aware that this is just my opinion. I've got over 30 years of surfing experience, so I have been around the traps for a little bit, so I feel I'm capable of answering any questions for you. Okay, so as I said, three main factors. The first one we're going to look at is the thickness of the board. Okay, now stand-up paddleboards, 90% of stand-up paddleboards and all of my boards are constructed from a polystyrene core. Okay, it's actually called EPS, expanded polystyrene, but for the basics of this clip, I'm just going to call it polystyrene. Okay, and we're just going to pretend there's one kind of polystyrene. Now, as you're aware that it's basically the same foam that's in your old school foam eskies. Okay, so if you take a bit of that foam down to the water and you push it into the water, the foam just wants to pop out all the time, okay? So it creates a lot of resistance. Every time you push it down, it creates a lot of resistance. Okay, so the way SUPs work, when I stand on a SUP, and I'm 90 kilos or around that mark, when I stand on a SUP, I put a lot of downward pressure on, okay? Now that polystyrene has a lot of resistance in the water as I push it down, pushing up. So me pushing down and the foam pushing up is the makings of a really stable platform, okay? So when you get the right thickness of that polystyrene for your body weight, you get a really good balance and a really good base for the stability of the board, okay? So now, this is the thickest board at 4 7/8 inches, but once again, for the basics of this clip, we'll just call it 5 inches because it's so close. It's a bee's dick off 5 inches. and these two here are 4.5 inches. Now 4.5 inches is a nice thick board, and it'll give you plenty of stability. Now this is all just general information. Each person, you know, depending on your body weight and your body shape, we need to get a little bit more specific in selecting your exact board, but this is just very general information to guide you in the right direction for the start. Okay, so we've got the foam core. This is 5 inches thick, right at the centre of the board, right in the widest section of the board. Okay, now I believe that the main stability in the board comes from this section here, which is where you stand on the board. Okay, that is of main importance. Now another factor that really helps with this, the resistance of the foam pushing out of the water, is the amount of thickness you have running right through the board. Okay, so if you've got a board that's 5 inches thick in the middle, but it's only 1/4 of an inch at the nose, it's really thin, of course it's not going to have that resistance. So as a beginner, you want a board where the thickness runs right through the whole body, so it's got good resistance and gives you a nice steady platform. Okay guys, I just had to cut the tape there a bit because I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but we've got the kids here with us today, and I don't know if you heard them calling out mum, but we just got interrupted, so we're going to kick off again. Okay, now we've just discussed the first factor, which was the thickness of the board for stability. The second factor, and a lot of people would call this factor number 1, but I've called it factor number 2 because I need to bond the thickness and the second factor together to make it all work. Right, factor number 2 is the width of the board. Now when I say the width of the board, I mean from this side or this rail to that rail. Okay, now this board's 34 inches wide, which is a super wide board, and you can see how wide it is. That next board's 32 inches wide, which is also quite a nice wide board. And then that third board over there is 30 inches wide, okay? Now, anything over 30 inches wide or more is quite a wide board, okay? 34 inches is getting up to a very wide board, and you will get some up to 36. Maybe even more, I'm not sure, but I have heard of 36. That's getting super wide. Now, how does this play in stability? Well, obviously, when you're standing on a SUP, the idea is to have your feet nicely spaced so you get good balance, okay? If you've got your feet too close together, you're super wobbly. When you've got your feet nicely spaced, you get really good balance. You can imagine if you're standing somewhere and you've got your feet nice and wide and someone comes along and gives you a good shove, you know, you're probably going to hold your balance. If you've got your feet close together, they're going to knock you on your butt, okay? So when you've got a nice wide SUP, you can spread your stance out as much as you want and get that balance really nice and wide. Even right down to your 30 inch, you can still get your feet really nice and wide. Now, on this really big super wide one, when you've got your feet nice and wide, you've still got, you know, probably 4 inches of that thick foam either side of your feet giving you balance, okay? Whereas when you're on the 30 inch wide board, you haven't got all that coverage either side, so it's going to be less stable, okay? So basically, factor number 1, we've got the thickness of the board. We've established that, of polystyrene foam that gives a lot of resistance when you push it down in the water. Factor number 2 is the width of the board. It gives you extra polystyrene because it's wider, more resistance, more stability. Okay, now the third factor is the outline of the board. Now, we'll use this board because you'll probably get a better view of it here on the camera. You'll notice that the sides of the board, or what we call the rails of the board, are really quite parallel all the way from the tail to the nose. If you're familiar with surfboards, you'll notice a surfboard shape, the nose is more pulled in and it's quite narrow at the front, comes down to the widest point roughly at the centre and then tapers in again. You'll notice these big boards, the rails are quite parallel right through, and what this does, it allows the board to carry that width for a long distance right through the whole board, which gives you extra stability. So if we were to cut this board into a point like a shorter surfboard, we're going to lose quite a bit of polystyrene around the edges, and it's going to lose a lot of volume and lose resistance in the water, okay? So the idea for stability is to have nice parallel rails, okay? Now, so to wrap that up, we've got factor number one is the thickness of the board. We've worked out that that's polystyrene, we get good resistance, we've got a good solid platform to stand on. Factor number two is the width of the board. The wider, the more stable the board's going to be. And factor number three is the outline of the board, the parallel rails. Now, as you can see, these three boards here are all basically the same outline, okay? These boards are called all-rounders, right? Now, the reason why they're called all-rounders is because you've heard of an all-rounder on a cricket field that can do absolutely everything. Well, these guys are the same in the water. You can go for a really nice flat water paddle with your friends, especially that nice narrow one over there. You can go for a really nice fast paddle without stepping up to a race board. This big girl here, you can take it down to the beach and throw the family on it. You can paddle that with 2 kids on board and have a great day. And also on these boards, if mum or dad or whatever your situation may be is feeling a little bit frisky one morning, they can whip it down to the beach and get out and get a few waves, okay? These boards surf really well as well. Now, I've actually been surfing one of the 30-inch wide boards pretty well all this year, basically because it's so easy to ride. All-rounders are really comfortable to ride, they're really easy, they're really stable. So no matter what level you are at your surfing, you can still jump on one of these and have a great time. Okay, so as I said, there is one more factor that can influence the stability of the board and does influence the stability of the board. Now, that's the length of the board, okay? But I didn't put it with the top 3 factors because I don't believe that it is one of the major points, okay? A lot of people will tell you that, hey, when you're beginning, you need a huge long board. That's not so much the case. You need a wide board, you need a thick board, okay? Now I'm going to explain why. This is the highest volume board out of these 3, and I think it's the most stable. It's only 9 foot 8 long because at this midpoint, it's very thick and it's very wide, and the rails have got that parallel outline, okay? Now this board's bigger by about 1 foot or 30 centimetres, this board in the middle here, but I don't find it quite as stable, almost as stable, even though it's longer, because it's only 32 inches wide, it's 2 inches narrower than that, and it's ½ an inch thinner. So I believe it's still got the nice parallel rails. I believe that the thickness and the width and the parallel rails are more of a factor towards stability than the length of the board, okay? Now, and while I'm touching on that, the length of the board will help the board track straighter on the water, and it'll also help the board glide better. You'll find a shorter board won't track as well when you're paddling, it'll wiggle like this. So that is the reason why we go for such long boards. Because I could hear you saying then, well, if that's got nothing to do with stability, why don't we make them 6 foot long? Well, when you get down below a certain length, it does play a major role in stability. But when we're looking at boards this length, it's all good. Now, I'm going to show you a little experiment that we've done. I'll just grab this other board. Now this is our wombat. This is only 7 foot 4 long. And as a beginner, you might be looking at it saying, hey man, you're crazy. There's no way I'm going to get on that board. But if we have a look at the 3 factors that I've just spoken about. Okay, now, is this board thick? Has this board got a lot of foam in it? Well, this board's 4 3/4 inches thick. It's almost as thick as the big girl there. So yes, it has. It's got the foam in it. Does it carry its thickness right through the whole outline? Well, if we have a look along it there, yes, it's a very, quite a high volume board for its length. Righto. Now, is it wide at the central point or at its widest point? Yeah, it is. It's 31 inches wide. Wow, maybe it is stable. And the final factor, what's the outline like? Are the rails quite parallel? And yeah, they are. So I'm 90 kilos and I ride this board with ease, especially on flat water, and I've actually popped a few beginners on it. And because of those three factors, I've found the beginners can paddle it no problem at all. It is a bit twitchy in the water, it doesn't track nice and straight like the big longboards, but it's a good step down board if you want to get into a bit of surfing. It is quite a big step up because of the length, but it's surprisingly stable because it's got all those factors included, okay? So hopefully that's helped you today. I'm going to continue on this series of clips. We'll pop one on once a week, and you know, I might even throw a wedgie in here and there if I come up with a bit of information that I think you might find really relevant. So guys, make sure you check out our website, pressuresystempaddleboards.com.au and marimbulasuplessons.com.au. My phone number's on there if you need anything, or just if you want to have a chat and ask a few questions. Also, please, if you don't agree with something I said, or you want me to add some more information about something I said in another clip, or you've got something that you really want to know about that you think I might be able to help you about and you'd like to see it in a clip, leave a comment below and I'll do the best I can to give you that info. So thanks for joining us here on beautiful Barmouth Beach in Pamela, New South Wales. Catch you later.